Hi, welcome back to the shop. So today I have to get these doors prepped to get them into the spray booth. Sanding is probably the most important job in the sense of your finished product. What does it look like? Because if you don't do it right, first of all, your customer's not going to be happy, and if you're working for somebody, the finisher's not going to be happy, and if the finisher's not happy, the boss is not going to be happy. So you have to be able to learn how to do this right. When I first started working, uh, I remember the first week I started, I actually got to build a project. It was a bedroom set for the company I was working for. And I thought, oh, this is fabulous. I'm going to be making custom furniture for the rest of my life. Well, I finished that and it turned out good. But then the next week I was sanding moldings, trims, panels, doors, and that kind of stuff. And then the next week, the same thing. The next week after that, it just kept on going. And after 6 months of sanding, I finally got to do something a little different. I got stuck in the rough mill making all the parts that I was sanding. But it was 6 months of absolute hell. And but it did teach me a lot. It taught me, first of all, how to sand, but it taught me how to do it efficiently because I hated the job and I still hate it. I don't like doing it now. So I want to do this as quick as I can and as efficiently as I can, but at the end of the day, it has to look good. So there's a few steps on doing this, but there are some critical things that you have to, and this is basically after experience of what I've learned. And certainly sandpaper, when it comes down to the stuff that you use to do the finishing, and I've tried them all. And I go, okay, well, I got to try this out. And I thought, oh, this is going to work. And well, it doesn't. And at the end of the day, I've come down to that right there. It's made by Carborundum. It's called Carbo Premium Red by Carborundum. I think, where is it? Out of St. Gobain Abrasives Inc., Stevensville, Texas, USA. And the stuff is just absolutely fabulous sandpaper because it holds the grit well and the degrade on it is minimal. And I like the fact that when I use it, I know I'm going to get a certain life out of it. Whereas this is Mirka sandpaper, and it works with my vac system here, but I don't particularly like the paper or the sanding product here because the grit seems to fall off of it. And literally, if I'm sanding, let's say I'll get 8 doors out of this here, I only get 4 out of that. There are some other ones. Sales rep once gave me some 3M stuff, and it was really good. But this mesh stuff doesn't work when you're starting to sand this type of door here that has sharp edges on it. You have to go to something with kind of a Velcro back like this one right here. So this is also that premium red stuff, and that works with my Air one here. But then I've used cling spore, and literally this, it's nothing. But even this, okay, so this is an old piece here. When I drag it across my fingernail, it still has a hook to it. And that's what's important to me. Like for instance here, this cling spore, nothing. If I want to buff my nails, that's one way to do it. And here, the Mirka, like that's brand new right here. Okay, and I can feel it pulling on my nail. That's how I kind of gauge it if I want to find out where the sandpaper is at. So, that being said, I use a PSA back sandpaper for doing any of my flats, and I'm going to tell you why. So this is a hard pad that's on here, and what I like to do is get this on. It's a 5-inch pad, but there's a perimeter around that whole paper, okay? And what I do is I roll that perimeter around my sander like that. And when I'm sanding, I never end up having this thing come around and like tearing on the edge. Like these ones here will tear like that. So you're sanding and all of a sudden, pooh, out goes a piece of it. And it's like, oh, for crying out loud. And these things aren't cheap. These things are about roughly 50 cents a piece. These Miracle ones actually a lot more than that. But that's one of the reasons I like using a flat pad. And it's air operated, which means you have to have a compressor running for it. But at the end of the day, I'm getting a much higher quality of product, and that's kind of what I'm looking for. I'll probably end up doing something where I'm gonna, like this pad here on this this vac system from Mirka. I don't particularly like it because it's squishy. If you're getting into contours, that's a great pad, but I'm gonna look for a hard pad with holes in it, like a 5-hole one, but I haven't gone to look yet. But anyways, it works for most things, but I do prefer this when I'm sanding doors. I just find it way better for any of that kind of stuff. So I'm going to show you the process of what I do here. So when I'm working on a door, the first thing I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be sanding profile. And the reason I'm doing it is the sanding the profile first is because when you go around after the fact, your profile will all be done. And if I happen to, let's say, scratch this way with the sandpaper, it doesn't matter because I'm going to go over it with the sander after. So I do the whole profile, and this is just a 1/16 of an inch radius. So it's very simple. On a profile, yeah, you have to get in a little bit more, but this is a simple shaker round profile. Okay. Back side of the door. There we go. Okay, so that's all I've done now is the profile. So the next thing I want to do is my edge. And now that I've got my edge done, I break the corners. So that little flat right there, okay, see how sharp that is? That's got to be broken over just to soften it out. And that's what it looks like when it's done right there. Okay, just a slight radius on it. It just gives it that's the kind of the custom look. It means that a machine hasn't done this. You can see it that it's just been nicely eased over by hand, and that does make a difference. So the next thing you want to do is start sanding a flat. So this is 120 grit sandpaper on here. So I machine sanded through the wide belt to 180, and then I drop 2 grits. So now I'm going to 120, and then I'm going to bring it back up to 180. If I try to do it just with 180, it's just going to be way too much work. So this 120 is your workhorse for all of it. That's what it takes to do that. So you can see that here, there's no cross sanding scratches going this way. And here's a little trick. You've probably seen this before. If you want to make sure that you've got everything done right, just put a couple of pencil lines on it. And Once those are gone, then you know you've actually gone and cleaned up all those cross sanding scratches off of it. So I got the face side here. Okay, so everything now is sanded all the way around this side and that. Now I want to do my profile that's inside here. I just want to break this sharp edge. And I'm doing it now because my last pass is going to be at 180 grit. And if I happen to skip into this panel, that 180 will clean that up. There we are. Okay, so when I'm sanding this, I want to make sure that this paper does not touch that center panel, because that's the biggest no-no you can ever do. If you sand and cut into your cross grain over here, oh man, that's just an awful thing to fix. Especially because this panel here has been sanded to 180 grit, and I'm going over this with 120, and you can see what that'll be. Especially if you get in a corner, you can't clean it up with sandpaper. It just looks terrible. So I've done this enough times that I don't end up hitting that panel. But what you can do is get yourself a small stick. Just put that in there and just sand up to it like that. And then here. Okay, this is a great thing for beginners. If they're learning how to sand, you just have a small piece of plastic, paper, cardboard, or anything, and that'll keep you from hitting that that panel right there. All right, so that's just enough to break that open. All right, so that's done, and all I got to do now is just go over it with 180. I'll just switch this out for a second. That's it. That's what it takes to finish a door. That last pass at about 180 grit, it does not need to be a lot because you've already done the majority of the work with the 120, and all you're doing is just taking those 120 circle scratches and bringing them to 180 scratches. So you just go around the door and you put a decent amount of pressure on it, but at the end of the day, you just want to take everything back to 180 grit scratches, and then it's done. So I try to target for about 5 to 7 minutes per door to get this done. All right, hopefully that helps.